Well, good afternoon. Longhaultanker, straight razor shaving with Longhaultanker. And today is Tuesday, June the 17th, 2025. And I am at home in Spring, Texas, just north of Houston. And I've got 3 days of whiskers on my face. And I'll tell you about the details of what's gone on in the last couple of days here as we get moving along. But today is my wife and I's anniversary, 17 years together. And happy years they are as well, every single one. So she's on a business trip, regrettably. She'll be home tomorrow. And tomorrow I've got a doctor's appointment with the cardiologist. And I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm doing a nuclear stress test. This is a cardiologist that I've been to at least twice before, if not 3 times before, every 2 years. So going back over the last, and I wasn't last year, so add those 2 years in. So it's been at least 8 years. Well, it's been 2 years since 4 years since I've seen him, and I've been going to him from 8 years ago. So anyway, good guy. I like him. The only downside is that he's way over on the west side of Houston, and I've got to drive close to 30, 40 miles over there, and no bueno, as some say around here. Anyway, let me introduce the equipment, and we'll get moving along, and I'll catch you up on what's been going on. My razor for today is the Dovo stainless steel Fokker Soligen, and what's that down there? Oh, that must be German. Jahabin, or I'm not even going to try. The tank says Dovo Soligen. And on the back, it says, forged in Solingen, Germany, 67-71, ice-tempered stainless, 1.4034 plus AU, whatever. I know that has to do with I'm sure the composition of the steel. But the story behind this, and the reason it says 67 to 71, is that I guess Dovo recently, within the last, say, 5 years, declared bankruptcy and just nearly went out of business. Apparently they had to move out of their former location. They moved into a new location, and in moving boxes and shuffling stuff around, they came upon a box of blanks. And these stainless steel blanks that they determined were forged back in the late 60s, early 70s. And so they made a special production run on these Fokker and sold them recently. I think they're still available, but each one is uniquely numbered. And I bought mine from Jared at the Superior Shave. And this one's got a unique number on it. I don't know if you can see it, but right down there by the shoulder, let's see if it'll focus in. I don't think it will. But it says 107/500. So this is number 107, 107 of 500 produced. And this has got some snake skin acrylic scales. Mine obviously is in red. They made a production in blue, and I think they made 500 of those as well. I don't know if there were any blanks left in reserve. I don't know. And I'm going to say this too, that when I ordered this from Jared, I went ahead and paid him the extra money to do one of his convex honing edges on it, and it was fine. I've had this now, better part of 2 years, maybe 3. And my opinion is that after a few shaves over, it got just a wee bit tuggy. And so I went ahead and moved it to a flat edge on the what is it that I use? My synthetics, Shapton glass stones, 30,000. So went back to it was either the 500 or the 1,000 and gave it a good flat bevel. And you can see the bevel markings there a little bit. And good flat bevel. That wasn't a focus picture, by the way. So a good flat bevel, and brought it up to 30,000, and there it has remained since I did it about 2 years ago. All right, so there's that. My brush for today is the QED Select Manchurian Silver Tip Badger. QED Select Manchurian Silver Tip. All right, 30 millimeter. This is the big one. I've got a 26 and a 24, and then another 24 with a real small imitation horn handle that I gave to my trucking buddy that lives not far from me. Then we worked at the same company for years together. We'll just call him Randy. That's his first name, Randy. Good old Randy. And the soap we're using is the Sterling Bay rum, and the room is just wafting with the Bay rum's scent, having soaked this in the water for the last little bit, and in and out, and more water. And so Bay rum, lovely scent. This is going to scent. This is the soap I'm going to be taking with me on the road over the next couple of runs. And we're drinking a cup of coffee from a new mug that my wife bought a pair of new mugs about a month ago. And this is some of the best coffee I've ever had. Private label, you name it. And I brought the box in to show you. It's Folgers 1850 Black Gold. And I was going to look it up on the internet, Amazon, whatever, to see how much it costs. I don't know how much this costs. And it's not a very big box. 12-ounce box, ground coffee. And it is simply, bar none, the best. I don't know how much that is, but I do know that when you go looking at some of these private label, and everybody wants to sell private label, I know how to roast a bean. I guess the language is that they know how to burn a bean. Whatever, I don't care. But I've also often found that these private label coffees are sky-high fortune. I don't care how much of a patriot you are. If you're charging 3 times more than what maybe that box costs, I'm not going to buy you. Regardless if you're completely 100% in line with my moral values, I'm not going to buy you because I can't afford you. And you might just, turn up your nose and say, well, okay, if you can't afford me, well, I guess you can't afford me. But I do like to drink coffee, and good, strong tasting coffee as well. And I like to put my sugar and cream into it. And this is just, it's better. You see the trucks going down, the diesel trucks going down the road, like from Flying J or Pilot. Come drink our coffee. We have the best coffee in the world. And some of them do. Well, they're good. They're good, especially for a truck driver who likes to drink a couple of cups of coffee a day. That's good stuff right there. It's equally as good, if not better, than some of the truck stop coffees at Flying J or Love's Truck Stops, which I drink. I've got a I've got a 20-ounce cup that I drink the better part of every day. Just so I don't drink a lot of coffee. That is, say not all day long do I drink coffee. No. All right, let's get started on this. Let's get started on this shave with this 10-minute introduction here. So, Sterling Bay Rum QED Select on the brush, Fokker Bite on the blade. Let's get it loaded up. Now, this Bay Rum from Sterling, as I recall, was among the second batch of soaps that I bought from Sterling years ago. And so this goes back, this goes back to about the time just shortly before the Lake Tahoe, Oregon vacations that I went on years ago. My wife and I, that is. Had a nice hot shower. I'll do a haircut with the clippers on Thursday. I've got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off from work, all relative to medical appointments that I've got lined up. I say appointments, singular. Well, actually it's two. I've got two separate appointments scheduled with the same doctor. One at 12 noon tomorrow and the other one at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And what we're doing tomorrow at 12 noon is a nuclear stress test. And with that nuclear stress test, that's where they shoot you up with a radioactive isotope, and it puts a marker, at least one that I know of, into your blood so it can track your blood flow in your heart and arteries to and from the heart, I guess. And they'll put you on a treadmill and get your heart rate up to a certain level based upon your weight and age and so forth. And that's all good and fine. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I did 2 years ago, I did a nuclear stress test for the doctor that I was using it was 2 years ago. I didn't like him. That's why I'm not going back to him. And because I've never had a heart attack, because I've never had a stroke, because I've never had a real what you might call a real cardiac event, diagnosis of high blood pressure, hypertension, which led to a stress test, which led to an angiogram, angioplasty, followed with a stent. And so all these health professionals go crazy when they hear that I've got a stent in my heart. And that's why the first urology company that I went to, that I think they kind of did me wrong, get right up to the day before the procedure to sonic blast my kidney stones. They called and said, "Oh, who's your cardiologist?" Well, I don't have one. Well, you got a stent in your heart. You take these medications. Don't you go see somebody? I said, I go see somebody every 2 years to get a stress test, only because, and here's the second half, only because the Department of Transportation medical division requires that I do get a stress test every 2 years and get a letter release to work, that I am in sufficiently good health that I can drive a truck. Okay, fine. And now, because of the kidney stones, so the DOT side of it requires me to do the test, and it can be an exercise or nuclear. Doesn't matter. But the one last time, and the guy that I've had before that I'm going to tomorrow, they both wanted me to do a nuclear stress test, which is fine. They want to follow the bouncing ball through my arteries and heart. That's fine. And I even welcome it. So they can follow the movement of blood or follow the movement of the radioactive isotope through my heart. And they'll find the same thing that they found every single time I've done a stress test, and that is, you're in remarkably good shape. Well, thank you. I knew that already. For not having a heart attack or a stroke or any other cardiac event other than a diagnosis of hypertension, which led to all this other craziness. But so I need three things from my cardiologist tomorrow. I need a stress test, cardiac stress test. I need a letter stating a release to work, and a letter stating a release to have surgery. And that's where the former urology people fell down. They didn't tell me that well in advance. I had to cancel the appointment. And actually it worked out for the better, because I ended up going to the doctor that I really wanted to go to the first time, who I thought was at the place I contacted the first time. And when I said I wanted to see this doctor, they didn't dissuade me from the notion that he was no longer there. Now, I don't know, I call that fraud. But hey, what do I know? But as I say, it's all worked out. And I've had to take a little more time off from work than I suppose certainly me and my boss that he's happy with. Hey boss, I need another 3 days off from work. Because one thing I've learned through this process with my boss is if you, and not just relative to the medical appointments, but kind of generally, if you don't schedule your own time off, both before and after the appointment, you're going to get called back to work at least 24 hours before you wanted to. And so I have my appointment. I scheduled it. I have to be back. I got home last night at 11 p.m., 2,300 hours, because he ran me up right up to the last moment. Well, I had today off. Okay, fine. I got today off. And my appointment is at noon tomorrow. And I scheduled the day after off as well, to satisfy my own need for rest. Please give me some good rest. I will say that my dogs and the lawn care guys this morning did not let me sleep the way I wanted. All right, here we go with the Fokker bite. What is that? 6/8 stainless steel, Shapton glass, 30,000. On 3 days. I got some nice relaxing music playing off of YouTube. And condolences and RIP, rest in peace, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I tell you, when I can remember in 1975, 1976, when Endless Summer double album came out, I bought that. I'd vaguely heard of the Beach Boys before that, but I was 15 years old in 75. And it meant everything to me. I got that album, double album, played it over and over and over again. And there was a program, there's a fella that I've listened to and watched on many occasion in the truck at night about music. There's this guy called the Professor of Rock. Unless you watch YouTube, and you probably wouldn't know anything about him, but he's very interesting, very good. Got an interesting YouTube channel. And he has quite the tribute that he has put together from various interviews that he has had with Brian Wilson and Mike Love over the years, and just, it was very touching, very touching. So if the Beach Boys music has ever touched you favorably, I mean, go listen to the Professor of Rock episode that he just put out about a tribute to Brian Wilson. The harmonies, nobody can beat the harmony. And this guy, the Professor of Rock, had an appointment to interview Paul McCartney. And he wore this t-shirt in the colors of Pet Sounds album, green t-shirt, yellow lettering, that said, Brian Wilson is a genius. And went to the interview with Paul McCartney wearing that t-shirt. I think that's hilarious. And then Paul McCartney's response was, when he saw it, he says, yes, we all thought so too. And of course, we all, coming out of the mouth of Paul McCartney, meant that John, Paul, George, and Ringo, the Beatles, thought that Brian Wilson was a genius also. That's what was meant. And of course, the rivalry, most people know, but some don't know, that the direct rivalry between the Beach Boys and the Beatles was strong. But the one thing that this guy, the Professor of Rock, young guy, smart guy, he said the difference between the Beach Boys and the Beatles, Brian Wilson and the Beatles, was that the Beatles, it took 5 of them to put a record together. You know, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and George Martin, the producer. He often called the 5th Beatle. And what it took the Beatles 5 people to put together, the Beach Boys put that stuff together with one person, Brian Wilson. The writing, the singing, of course, you know, you got the other Beach Boys too, Mike and Al Jardine and Carl and Dennis back in the day. And so I went down to the truck last Saturday. I did do a shave that morning, and I got that little nick right there. And let me tell you, that thing bled all over the place. It turned my soap all brownish red. Terrible. Just terrible. So I'm trying to be very careful not to reopen that, because it was a terrible bleed. So went down to the truck last Saturday, at late I got down there about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And I thought I was going to have some trouble finding the trailer, because when I got in Friday late in the afternoon, I went looking for the trailer that I knew I was going to have for my Sunday load time, and it wasn't on the yard, and I got concerned. You know, am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my trip going down on Saturday late in the afternoon to try and find a trailer that I looked for on Friday late afternoon and couldn't find? It wasn't on the yard anywhere. And so that was a concern to me. But I got there and found the trailer, which tells me that it came in later that night, which would had to have been after 7, 8 o'clock at night. And most of our trailers are recycled trailers, which is to say they're used for a compatible, the exact or either compatible product that can be laid into the trailer and mix the products or the ingredients, and it won't harm the purity of the next product. Okay, good, fine. It was an open, I was going from Houston, Baytown, Texas to Midland, Odessa. And it was an open load time in Houston. And so I went, I got processed. I got there at 5:45 a.m. I got up, my alarm went off at 4:30. Got there at 5:45. I was at the staging area for the rack, huge, one of these big plants in Pasadena. Pasadena, Texas, a suburb. Of Houston. And so I got to the staging area early Sunday morning. Nobody else was there. I got passed through security. I got passed through the scale house, got all my necessary loading paperwork. They told me where to go. I went to the staging area, the blue staging area. Nobody's there, and nobody comes around for an hour, from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I even called back to the scale house. I said, did I go to the right place? You told me the blue staging area? Yes, we did. Well, that's where I'm at. Okay, somebody will be along directly. Well, it took them an hour. But the good news is, from the time I got to the scale house, and finally got loaded and out of there, discharged out with paperwork, was 2.5 hours. So I really can't complain about that. And so let's just take 6 o'clock as so I was out of there at 8:30 and hit the road, hard charged it, and got to Midland, to the truck stop where I wanted to be by about 6:30, 7 o'clock that night. Delivery was at 8 o'clock, 0800. Got there, again, 8 o'clock, but I had to pump it off myself. It was a flammable product, so you can't air off a flammable product, you got to pump it off. Last thing you want is to aerate a flammable product, something that's got high alcohol content or petroleum gasoline type product. Anything that's got red placards, red hazmat placards, you don't want to aerate, which simply means when you attach that airline to the tank, to pressurize it like a soda can, that aerates the product inside. That's why oftentimes on a Coke can, soda can, when you pop the top, you get that psst, and it's because it's pressurized, it's aerated. And the same would happen with a flammable product, in that it's very susceptible to ignition. And so you don't want that. That's a bad thing. And so that's why you pump it off, and so that it's already well ventilated. When you go to pump off a large tanker like I pull, the last thing you want is you have to have the trailer, the tank, vented so that the pressure is equalized from the inside to the outside, because as soon as you start pumping it off, you get negative pressure inside the tank. And that will crush, and I have seen plenty of real trailers that were collapsed because somebody forgot to open the dome, or somebody forgot to open a vent to allow the pressure to equalize from inside to outside, allow outside air to come in and equalize the pressure on the inside. And again, no bueno. But there's little tricks that you learn, little mind things that you condition yourself for. And that is, when you're going to pump out a product from a tank, like I pull, when you get out of the truck to begin your work, that's the first thing you do, is go open the dome. It's the first thing. Not the second, not the third, not the fifth, the first thing. That way you're vented and equalized. So that whole process took about 2 hours and 15, 20 minutes. I got rolling and away from there in Midland, Texas at about 10:30, we'll say 10:30, and went to the Love's Truck Stop at Sweetwater, Texas, which was about an hour and 45 minutes from where I was. Warmed up one of my wife's breakfast burritos and got a cup of coffee, and 9 hours back to the yard from 10:30, and about a 20-minute stop in Sweetwater to do what I did, and then another 30-minute stop in Alma, Texas. And I got back to the yard last night at about 8 o'clock, 8:30. I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to get home before 11 o'clock. And sure enough, I'm a big proponent of stretching. Stretch every which direction you can to make the shave closer, if that's your goal and objective, is to get as close a shave as possible. And don't listen to what other people may say about, I have one guy, and I didn't pay him no attention or reply and remark, because he subscribed to my channel, then he left the comment, and he said, well, that looked like a 4-pass shave. Well, who cares? Who cares? How many perceived passes? It's with the grain, across the grain, against the grain. That's the goal. Now, I don't mean you just move this razor one time. That's all you get. You only get one shot at it. No, 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 no. You can't do it 3 or 4 times. You know, it's like on a width the grain. You know, I pull it up, and there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9, there's 10, there's 11, there's 12. No. It's a concept more than an actuality. A 3-pass shave is a concept. The concept is with the grain, across the grain, against the grain. And whatever it takes to accomplish those 3 goals, objectives, principles, concepts, it's a concept. It's not an actuality. You know, it's kind of like the hours of service regulations, DOT hours of service regulations, the 70-hour rule, the 34-hour restart rule. It's not a work schedule, it's a concept. If you're going to drive a truck, you have to do it in accordance with the hours of service regulations. That doesn't mean that you can give a driver, based upon a work schedule, more time off than the minimum standard required by the DOT hours of service regulations. Well, thank you very much. I'd like more time off between loads. And the same is true with the number of times you move a razor across your face to accomplish a 3-pass shave. With the grain, across the grain, and against the grain. And so people who like to be smarty pants about it, you know, they can go find a tall bridge to go jump off of. I've seen some of these guys do a shave where they really thought that more than one stroke in a certain patch of skin to accomplish with the grain, across the grain, against the grain, terrible. That was terrible. What nonsense. Somehow or another, I don't think, no, I won't say it. That sounds silly. Can you imagine some of the old timers in the movies, rather than call a particular name, who may themselves very well have shaved with a straight razor as a part of the age in which they lived, would actually think about how many strokes, how many times they moved a razor across their face? No. I don't see that at all. They're trying to accomplish a certain objective, namely, cut the whiskers off in the direction that they're shaving. Like right now I'm doing across the grain as best as my coordination will allow. Yeah, the razor feels great. Shapton Glass 30,000 never disappoints with the crispness. I don't know how you feel about a good crisp edge. I know some of you use a synthetic 12,000, 20,000, Shapton Glass 30,000. But once you become accustomed to that synthetic edge on the higher end, to me, there are differences between the synthetic edge and the crispness and a natural edge, and often the smoothness that comes like conical. Or even, as you move up into a little more crispness of the natural stones, for me and my collection, the Arkansas stones and the Zulu gray provide a what I'll call a balance, a good balance between crispness and comfort. Whereas you got comfort at the conical on one extreme, and in my opinion, the crispness of the Zulu gray on the other end of the spectrum, with the Arkansas stones tending toward the crispness of the Zulu on the other end, but more, it has some comfort or smoothness. Moving a little slow this morning. I didn't get to sleep in as well as I would have liked to this morning. I guess I already said that though, but the lawn guys coming and the dogs outside. We've been keeping the dogs outside at night, and we've got their sleeping boxes outside on the patio that we moved out there, and we shut them up in those boxes. At night, when we're both home, or one of us is home. My wife left early yesterday for her business trip in Dallas. and I didn't get home till late last night. And so she left them out. Oftentimes she'll just leave them out because obviously during daytime, they need to be out and available to run and go out to the backyard. But when I got home, as late as it was, I locked them up in their cages and closed the doggy door. They have a tendency to bark at night if I don't put them in their cages and shut the door. Latch their cage door. They have a tendency to bark at night. But I put them in their cage and lock them down, they don't bark. At least until morning, or until the lawn guys come and start making a clatter. Then they'll bark. Like this morning. My wife will be home tomorrow. And so I'm gonna get done with the shave. I'm gonna make another pot of coffee with this delicious Folgers 1850 Black Gold. Against the grain. You may notice a certain amount of English or bias. When I'm coming up, I'm going from the outside to the inside. I'm going from the bottom over here to the chin, because that's my hair grows this way, and I'm going to go against the grain that way. And be careful not to cut myself in the process. And keeping my blade as flat as possible helps in that regard. Especially right in here under the chin. That usually makes for a pretty good smooth stroke under the chin. I always open my mouth wide when I'm trying to get the corner right here, both in the downstroke and the upstroke. Watch this. Now that's how I like to take that on the downstroke. But the upstroke, similarly, I will open my mouth as widely as I can. And I usually do a very good job in getting close, right in here, right in the corner. In my opinion, when you come down on the downstroke with your mouth closed, you miss out on the little fine whiskers right in the corner. And so, just my advice. For what it's worth. I lost track of myself in that little explanation. What do I normally do next? Well, I come back over here with the left hand, still use it because I was using the left hand here. Then I switched it out. And now I got to come back. And again, I'm going from the outside to the inside, from the outer regions of the neck to the inner regions of the chin. Gently, slowly. Yeah, it feels good. Stretching the whole way. Now, if there's anywhere in my shave practice where it may seem like I'm doubling up or excessive passes, it's this next series that I guess I could be accused of that. And I don't know why I do it, but on the right side with the right hand, I do a reverse hand motion, holding my razor like this, where my hand is reversed. But it works for me. That's all I can say. Maybe I find a certain sense of satisfaction in doing that, because I don't do it on, I don't come this way with my left hand any more than what I've already done. Now, those strokes right there would be regarded as normal, as consistent with a right hand against the grain, against the left side of the face, but I'm going to bring it back to the right side of the face with my right hand using kind of an overhand motion with my right hand, like this. So I guess it could be said by a critic that on this right side of the face, I am using excessive strokes. Now, if there's one place where I had to turn the razor around, it's right here, because I got the tip of the razor on the outside, and it really ought to be on the inside, pointing toward my nostril, to get the tip of the razor into those fine bristles right under the nose. But I haven't got quite the hang of that. And usually when I'm at this stage of the shave, later, in the course of the shave, I'm more anxious to get the shave finished than I am proper procedure. All right, let's rinse it down. I'm going to shorten my sideburns. I guess I've had enough nostalgia with the longer sideburns. All right. Maybe not. I think I'll keep them for till Thursday morning, and we'll see what happens there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think I can live with that. Brought it up. I brought it right, the line, right, even with that little point in the ear, and almost the same right there. Well, that's a pretty good shave right there. All right, let's move on to the head shave. I'm gonna stay with the Fokker bite, the Dovo stainless steel Fokker bite, number 107. And I'm glad I got that number. It's a kind of a sentimental number in several different ways, not the least of which is one of my favorite conspiracy theories. And 17 is today's date, reminding me of my wedding anniversary to my wonderful wife. All right. I do believe that'll about do it for the head shave. Already done with the face shave. I'm going to do something a little different here in just a second. Now, what I normally do at this stage is I throw my brush into the water, let the soap melt into the water, use that as the final rinse. But let's just take some of the lather and do a direct application. Let it sit for a second or two. Nice slick residual. I could probably do a better job right there. But like I've often said, probably just chasing phantoms. They're there, but when the skin dries, they'll pull back in and they won't be there. Okay. Now we'll throw the brush into the water. But I'm not going to do a final rinse. I'll consider what I've just done my final rinse. I'm just going to let that soak there. I will clean it later off camera. All right, so let's do, getting ahead of myself, let me dry off my razor and close it for my final, well, clean up on the, not final, my sink side cleanup. All right, there's that. Now, I guess I gotta do another little alum block. Get some water on my face, which means that's fine. That feels wonderful. Just a nominal, minor sting. Wipe it off. And like I always say, keep the alum away from the razors so you don't get a stain. All right, let's. I'm going to use some Lucky Tiger for the with its alum and calamine and so forth. All right, give that a second to dry out. So we used the Bay Rum, Sterling Soap Company's Bay Rum, and Dovo stainless steel Fockerbite. Their recent production off of vintage golden age stainless steel blanks. And that was the rage. That's why those of us that bought them is because we felt a little kinship because we got into this hobby and learned a little something about the razors and the manufacturers and understand the relative. I don't know nearly as much as other people do, but I understand that this is an important exhibit of the hobby that we enjoy. So there's that. So that's why I bought it. All right, now, Clubman Virgin Island Bay Rum. That's what we're going with. And it's a full bottle. I've only used this a couple of times since opening it. Whoa, that came out fast. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Marvelous, marvelous. All right, well, that's it. Thank you for staying with me. I've gone a little long today, but running at times 2 the speed. I will see you down the road.